And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the greatest governor in America, Governor Rick Snyder.
Hi, guys. How's everyone doing? Everyone fired up? Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Please be seated. You guys like that video? Well, we're going to make it so you can pass it on. You ready to pass it on to everybody you know? Okay, let's pass it on. I want to begin, though, by saying thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you've done for the party, in many cases, for a lot of years. To spend your time, your energy, your financial resources to be part of this event, and more likely, all those doors you knocked on, all those phone calls you made, I want to say thank you. I'd like to start, though, to get some perspective on who we got here, because I think that's important. How many people are here for the first time? Raise your hand. That's awesome. We got a great first-time turnout. Thank you. Now, who's been here 3 times or more? Okay, we're going to keep going. We got a great crowd there. How many people have been here 5 times or more? Okay, we got to give everybody a shout out there. Okay, now I'm going to push my luck. How about 10 times? Okay, we got... I'm not going to make anyone feel too old, so I'm stopping there. Now, I have to share one story from 4 years ago, because 4 years ago was a big moment for me in terms of coming here. I had to do the debate, and I was excited to do the debate with the other candidates. There were 5 of us, as you recall. And the story went like this. No one knew who I was, and you know that. So when I came to come do the debate, I took my credentials off. And you remember that memo you got saying, do not take your credentials off for anything? You guys have all enjoyed that part, right? Well, I figured since I was going up on stage, I should take mine off because it'd look better if I'm up on stage. So as I came to come, I got to the doorway, they wouldn't let me in. And I had to stop and explain to them that I was running for governor and I was a candidate that was supposed to be up on stage. So that was a classic. Well, we've come a long way. And what I'd like to do is put up the list of things that I said we would do back in 2009. Here's the list. Because one of the key things in any part of your life, if you want to be successful, is what did you say you were going to do, and did you do them or not? Really simple. And that rule applies to your family, to your business, to politics. So I thought it was worth going back 4 years ago to say, here's the list, and let's talk about how we've done. Because if you think back to 2009, things weren't so hot then. Number 1, create more and better jobs. Since I've become governor, we've added over 220,000 private sector jobs in our state. We are number 1 in the nation in adding manufacturing jobs. We are number 3 in the nation in adding high-tech jobs. And we're going to keep going. Reforming Michigan's tax system. The Michigan business tax is dead. Personal property tax reform. We are going to repeal the personal property tax reform. We have reduced the income tax. We are going to stay on the path of being diligent about having a simple, fair, and efficient tax system and work to keep it as low as possible. Fix Michigan's broken government. 3 years, balanced budgets, the fastest in the last 30 years. No accounting gimmicks. Over 1,000 regulations gone. And more important than just getting rid of regulations, the attitude of people applying those regulations, we're turning it, because they're wonderful people, we're turning it to a case of how do we give good customer service, how do we help people succeed rather than penalizing people. We're turning that around in our broken government. Create an environment that will keep our youth, our future in Michigan. We've launched things like mitalent.org to really be a career site And that's only the start, folks. There's a lot of exciting initiatives we have on the drawing boards to continue to keep these wonderful young people. And let's give a shout out for all our T-shirt people and our young people here. And one side note about keeping our youth here I'm also going to mention is, in many respects, we were sticking them with the bill of the future. So we've done reforms, and you heard about 2040. Between reforms and payment plans we put in place, we've reduced our long-term debt burden at the state level by $20 billion that these young people are not going to have to pay at our expense. Restore Michigan cities and control urban sprawl. We are restoring the cities. Pontiac, we went in. We've had the emergency manager leave. We set a foundation for growth in Pontiac. We've got a number of other cities. We are going to turn around the city of Detroit. It is going to happen, folks. I was in China recently, and people kept on saying, what about Detroit? Because in Chinese, bankruptcy means end, collapse. So I told them the truth. There are two facts I said you need to know. First of all, what's going on in Detroit today is not a new problem. It's a solution to 60 years of accumulated problems. And second, we don't need to wait for a comeback to start after it. The comeback has been going on in Detroit. The problem is the city government wasn't part of the solution. Essentially, there's been over $10 billion of private investment in Detroit the last few years, 12,000 jobs. Young people are moving into Detroit at a rate they can't find places to live. The comeback is underway, and we're going to get city government to get on that same path, and it's going to make Detroit the value place in Michigan, the country, and the world in terms of a place to invest for the future. Enhance Michigan's national and international image. That's happening, folks. You saw it. Our credit rating went up. We're getting recognized for that. Pure Michigan is going on. It's something that's truly fabulous. We're going to continue talking about this is the place to be. We were number 4 by site selectors as the place to put a business in the United States. We're a freedom to work state that people are recognized as a place to come because it will create more jobs. Protecting Michigan's environment. That's something that's near and dear to all of us. And I believe it's more special in Michigan than most places because we have the Great Lakes, we love the outdoors. Many of us are spending our summers or other parts of the year enjoying the wonderful natural resources that we have. We need to do more, and we are. I'm proud to say I became co-chair of the Great Lakes Governors Council last December. They hadn't met. Our group had not met for 8 years. Think about that for the Great Lakes. Well, I worked with the co-chair. We called the summit. We had the summit right here earlier this year, the first summit in 8 years. It went so well, we made commitments on dealing with invasives, on doing economic together, on water management, and now we've agreed we're going to meet each and every year to make sure we stay on a path to keep our environment and our Great Lakes sound. Reform Michigan's educational system. Teacher tenure reform, removing the cap on charter schools, dual enrollment opportunities, online learning opportunities, teacher effectiveness. Again, we need to create an environment to have educators, particularly teachers, understand we're with them. But we want to give them the tools of the future, not the tools of the past, and really focus in on student growth as the dominant theme in education, helping our students be successful, and getting them ready for that real career, that career opportunity. So you saw it today about vocational training. We need career tech to come back and be much stronger. We need to continue to encourage people to get a university degree, but we've neglected skilled trade training in our state, and we're going to step it up. Reforming Michigan's healthcare system. We started with a special message. The 4x4 program, 4 behaviors and 4 measures to be healthier. Because if we simply took more personal responsibility for our own health care, our own wellness, we could do more to reduce health care costs than anything else. We could cut them in half. And we simply haven't fully committed to that decision. I've been trying to be a good role model. I don't know if you've noticed, I've lost a few pounds since 2009. But we all need to keep it up. Other things, infant mortality. We've had a major summit. We're going to continue to work those kind of issues. And I know not everyone agrees with this, but I can tell you, because you know I'm financially minded, Healthy Michigan is a good thing for Michigan. It will be. And I hope you're patient with us, because we're going to work through this and prove it to you. And we're going to make it work in terms of being the best place in the country to show we're not just following the federal government. We're blazing the Michigan way by showing them there's a better way than what they're doing and how we can win together. And then finally, bringing winning back to Michigan. One of the things that really troubled me when I was running for office is we'd sort of lost that spirit. We'd become too negative. Think about this. Think back a few years ago to 2009, when you'd have someone come visit from out of state. They would be happy to come visit you. They'd be excited to come to Michigan, and they would stay that way until they talked to a bunch of us. You're laughing because you know it's true. Now think about that. When people come now, we can be proud. We can talk about the exceptional things going on, that we're the comeback state. We are doing special things. We're taking problems and turning them into solutions. And it's that whole attitude of winning. So we're going to stay on that path. So if you step back and look at it, we've done a lot. Actually, I'll share one thing that we put together at one point. This is about 2011 and 12. When people wonder, what's happened? Here's a list. I'd do 13, but I'm not sure I got enough room here. And ask yourself the question, what happened before, what's happening at the national level, and could they do something like this? So we are winning, folks, and we should be darn proud of it, and we need to tell people about it. So great things are going on in terms of what we've accomplished, but we're not done. In fact, if anything, if people haven't fully got the message yet, I am fired up. All this talk, are you hanging around? Are you going to stick around? Are you going to work on this? Are you going to go keep working on government stuff? Do you enjoy it? Is it too hard? That's a whole bunch of hogwash, man. I'm having a great time. This is about helping people. We're going to keep going, and we're going to reinvent our state. Thank you. Thank you. Please. Thank you. Please grab a seat. And if you want to help on that, I think there's some petitions going around you could sign. So great opportunity here. But let me talk a little bit about that future. There are 4 things I'd like to cover with you these are things that I think are really important. 1, continuing to create more and better jobs. And it was in the video, but it's about doing it a different way. It's not about giving out tax credits to buy people to come into Michigan. The comeback in Michigan is going to be because of small and medium-sized businesses in our state growing, flourishing, and doing well. And how have we helped do that? We're helping do more by the tax system, the regulatory system, but one program I love is that Pure Michigan Business Connect, where you saw that number for DTE and Consumers Energy. They talked about $2 billion more buying from Michigan companies than they've done before. You know what that equates to? That's 10,000 jobs. That's a lot. They were our pilots, our pioneers in signing up. Now we have much of the OEMs on board, a lot of the Tier 1 suppliers. We're looking at all our industries. We're looking at getting everyone involved across our state. What an outstanding opportunity to say, it's about a good neighbor policy, about us helping one another and winning together, and it's working. The second thing is, in terms of connecting young people and anyone looking for a career to where those jobs are. I mentioned mitalent.org. We've started with that, but that's only the beginning point. That is a career site that shows for the challenges we have out there with too much unemployment than I'd like, We have over 60,000 open jobs, and these are good jobs, folks. We can do much more to connect people into those opportunities, and that gets been, again, the easiest illustration is skilled trade training again. They're wonderful jobs. If I talk to many business people, they're worried about having the workforce of the future. But we're going to work hard, and we're going to make sure we're going to have that workforce of the future. Because Michigan's future is about made in Michigan. It's about things we manufacture. It's about what we grow. It's about the creative and innovative ideas we bring to the table to make happen in our state. And we're going to make that connection. And we are going to lead the country in doing that. The country does not do a good job on this. And when we get this done right, we are going to have a 5 to 10 year first mover advantage over the rest of the United States. That's a big deal. So let's get that done. The third thing that goes with that is really looking at our whole educational system. Instead of all those silos, I call it P20, prenatal through lifelong learning. And again, we'll still keep the separate institutions, but how can we get them partnered to work together, to collaborate, to make wonderful things happen? It's all there, folks. We talked about dual enrollment on the video. Think about that. To get our colleges and high schools to work together, to say you can get college credit while you're getting high school credit because you're doing tough work. What happens if you get a year done while you're in that program? You've saved an entire year of college tuition, a 25% discount if you go to university, a 50% discount if you go into the skilled trades. And then the fourth thing is continuing good government. Continuing to follow the payment plans we put in place, to continue the great budgeting. One of the flaws of too much of the public sector is people think about 1 year, or they think about their term in office. I'm a nerd, I'm an accountant. I'm the token CPA governor in the United States. By the way, I think we could use more across the country. I'm staying here, but if you find others, get them signed up. I've asked our people to forecast through 2040 and farther out. And I can tell you, it makes a huge difference when you think about that. And I'm going to come back to that as an illustration of what else we can do or how we make decisions. But what I can tell you is, in 2038, I've told people, if you want a really sweet job, and this is for all the young people, you should run for governor. That's when you want to be governor of Michigan, is 2038. The debt will be all largely paid down. You can look to their future, a lot fewer headaches. So if you keep going in terms of good government, it's a great opportunity. So those are some core fundamental things we need to work on. Now I want to talk about how we do things. And I want to be open with you. I don't do things like most people in the public sector or the political world do them. And sometimes that gives people some heartburn. And what do I mean by that? Is I think we have too much of a political culture where people fight too much. And they spend too much time on things. They spend all their time on things they disagree with someone else, not on the things that we agree on that would help solve a problem. And so the way I view it, and I want to be open with you and share this, is I don't think about it through that normal lens. The way I view it in most of my decision making, I visualize sitting at the kitchen table, that we're a family. We're a big family, 10 million people. But we're sitting at the kitchen table, and we recognize around that table we have a lot of variety. We have a whole lot of different opinions. And we have a lot of different perspectives. There's a lot we agree on. There's a lot we may not agree on. But at the family table, don't we find ways to work through that? At the family table, have you ever seen value when two people start screaming at each other? Have you ever seen value when someone says, I'm not going to speak to you anymore? It's really when you come to that common ground about solving a problem. It's great. Sue's here with me tonight. And come on. Come on, you guys, stand up for a minute. And believe it or not, Sue and I occasionally disagree. And that occasionally happens until I recognize that she's been right the whole time. So the way I approach it is, let's just solve problems. And I'll give you that illustration because I'll come back to that payment plan illustration about how we're paying down our long-term debts. In the political world, the way too often it works today is politicians say, we have a whole bunch of money to spend on programs, and they go spend that money. And then they look and see, we want to spend more money. So let's go borrow more money so we can spend more. And let's have our debt grow and stick it on our kids. That's too often what happens in our country. And you can see it across many places. We're cleaning up a lot of that today. Now, if you're sitting at the kitchen table with your family, what do? You say, here's money for the mortgage payment. Here's money for the car payment. Here's money for food, for the essentials. And then if you have something left, then you can invest. Isn't that the way we should operate? So we need to work on getting our political world to understand we're one big family, we can treat each other with respect, and we can solve a tremendous amount of problems by having the right attitude about winning together. I just want to summarize by putting it in a simple sense, because there have been some differences of opinion, particularly recently, with a number of people here. But if you step back and look at it, and you look at that roadmap card of those 10 points, look at what we've done. And when I say we, it wasn't me, it was all of us working together. We said it, we did it. But we're not going to stop. I'm neither complacent nor content. I'm fired up. I'm committed to say, let's keep this good thing going. To the extent we had the sweep in 2010, we should just do it again in 2014. And I want to close on something not about us, because many of us have a good life already. We have some young people here, so it does apply to them. But a big part of this is to create that framework for our kids and our kids' kids. Too many of us have seen our kids have to leave Michigan. We want to work on getting them back. We have 3 kids. We have 3 wonderful kids still in the state. We're working hard to keep them here. We want that environment that's going to really make it that special place that we had the benefit of. And what I can tell you is we're on a path to confirm to everyone our brightest days are ahead of us. And as you saw in that video, when 50 came up, no way, never again. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Well, thank you. Thank you. Oh, please be seated. Thank you. And we have another Rick to ask me some questions.
Governor, thank you very much, and thanks again for including me. You know, 2 years ago, I was a little trepidatious to come to a partisan event. My boss encouraged me. She said it's a good opportunity to ask questions of leadership, both you and in our next panel. When I got back, she said, how'd it go? And I said, well, I guess okay, but all we talked about was a bridge to Canada and right to work, and none of that stuff's ever going to happen. So today I'll try to have questions from your audience that are a little more to the point. Here's one. You mentioned this. One of your friends in the audience says, despite heavy Republican opposition, why did you personally decide to support Medicaid expansion, knowing, their question, in advance of the future cost to the Michigan taxpayer?
Yeah, because I believe it actually can save us money. And I mean that sincerely. Again, I do it based on the numbers. But there are 2 parts to it. Before I talk about the number piece, let me talk about the human piece, because we're talking about real people. Now, what Medicaid expansion, I don't like that term, because Healthy Michigan is not generic Medicaid expansion. It encourages wellness, it encourages personal responsibility, it has triggers and things to keep us. If the federal government does strange things with the program, we can bail out in terms of moving through the program and stopping the program. But to the degree it is working, we have a chance to help hardworking but lower income people that go to the ER for their health care. That's a terrible answer. Literally, it's a matter of life and death for people. And I did a lot of town halls on Healthy Michigan where I sat with cancer survivors, with people that wouldn't be alive if they somehow hadn't gotten coverage. I met one young person in Grand Rapids. This was a gentleman that had held multiple jobs, and he kept on getting sick and having to quit. But he'd go get another job when he'd seemed to get better enough where he could work again. So this is a really hardworking person. He finally got so sick, he ended up in the ER because he didn't want to go because he knew he didn't have any money. He ended up having to go there. Turned out he had undiagnosed diabetes. Simple treatment, folks, insulin. If he would have had a primary care doctor, he could have been working that whole time. He could have had a regular family life. He could have been building economic prosperity for he and his family. So it's something, it's important to put it in the human perspective too. But now the financial piece. All those ER visits we paid for through our insurance premiums. So what's happening when you talk about taxpayers, there's a difference in who may be writing the check, but society is paying for that already. And so if you stop and look at it, what's more expensive? An ER visit or going to a doctor? That's common sense. It's a whole lot less expensive to go to a doctor than go to an ER that'll cost multiple times more expensive. So shouldn't we work on creating a system for our society to get people with a doctor so they're not in the ER? Because that bill was coming for us through either our insurance premiums or our tax dollars. So I view it's a way to save things, particularly when we're doing it the Michigan way, emphasizing wellness and personal responsibility and asking people to contribute.
You are in the unenviable situation of having the clock, and I can't see it, so let me know when we're running out of time here. There were a lot of questions about Detroit, so I'll let you answer in general what you think the path for Detroit is, but here is one specific. Detroit pensioners have a signed contract with the city. Why wouldn't they be part of a settlement whereby they would be made whole, essentially, I think is what this person asked.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that question, Rick. I gave the two big comments on Detroit I want to share with you already, but talking specifically about retirees, because I appreciate that. My folks lived off of Social Security and their savings. So it is something that's important to recognize. It can be a tough situation. Let me put it in context. As we went through the process before bankruptcy, we actually tried to get people to represent the retirees. We actually asked the unions to help represent the retirees. They wouldn't. We went through the process of saying, can we negotiate settlements outside of bankruptcy? What happened in good faith? They sued us. I hate to tell you folks, it's a pretty strong message when you're actually trying to negotiate and someone sues you to say they still want to work with you. So the lawsuits were rolling in. So I viewed it as a last resort to say we have federal bankruptcy law. And these are tough questions because we have less flexibility now under bankruptcy because there is federal law. So the way I defined it is we worked hard, but we were put in a position, and the first thing we did when we got into bankruptcy, one of the first things is we made a request to the judge to appoint a creditors committee of retirees. So the retirees would have a voice at the table to work through this process. So we don't have as much flexibility as we had before because federal bankruptcy law defines a lot of those rules. But we've worked very hard to try to work with retirees understanding it's a difficult situation. And it's going to be a tough situation throughout this whole process. Hopefully in the end we can all work through it so we can all look to our bright future. Because the best answer we need to get to, and this applies regardless of what corner of Michigan you live in, because sometimes we have people who sort of wonder why all the Detroit stuff. A growing Detroit helps retirees, helps everyone in the city of Detroit, and helps everyone in Michigan.
One of the people at your big kitchen table wonders about how you're spending money. Why was it important to put more money in the rainy day fund as opposed to put that money towards schools or tax refunds?
Yeah, very good question. I appreciate that. And this is where I'll hopefully explain a little bit what the accountant had on. The money in the rainy day fund is one-time funds. It's like your savings account. So one of the things that happens is we save that for one-time dollars. So about investing more in a number of areas, in roads and education, all those important things. Those tend to be recurring expenditures that happen year after year. So if we did money out of the rainy day fund, it would only help for 1 year. It doesn't fundamentally solve the problem. So we're very careful about saying what's ongoing money, just like your salaries and wages, interest and dividends, versus saying you have a savings account that you can draw on if you have a tough time. And one of the things that's important that I hope we've learned is there are ups and downs. And in fact, we have less in our rainy day fund than I feel comfortable with. It really should be somewhere about $1.2 billion to $1.8 billion or so. That's the kind of savings account that, again, if you were at your kitchen table and you were doing the family thing, remember the old rule of thumb, you should have 6 months set aside in savings or some number like that? That's what we're working towards when we get an opportunity to say we have one-time money that really isn't going to solve a huge other problem, but we can set it aside in this account.
All right, I think we got time for 2 more questions. This, I'm going to rephrase just a little bit to expand it. This is, I believe, from somebody who is 16 years old from Lansing. The question is, what do you consider the most important issues, they asked for the party, I'm going to phrase it for the state, that going forward would improve the future, especially as it regards young or potential new voters in the state?
Yeah, well, it really goes to 2 things when I always looked at it, is we want our young people to stay here. So you have to provide 2 things. You have to provide a career opportunity, and so that gets in that whole cycle of more and better jobs, about getting the connection made between the supply and demand of talented people in terms of connecting them to real careers. And the other one is quality of life, in terms of having a great quality of life opportunity. And again, that's why some of our Detroit, in particular, a lot of our young people want to go live in Detroit for at least some time. But we also want to see that in all our areas. One of the things I'm proud of is we're becoming the trail state in the nation for outdoor activities and wonderful quality of life in all parts of Michigan. But let me come back to that first one on the jobs question. I'm going to talk about one program that I'm really proud of that we launched this last year. It's MAT Squared, Michigan Advanced Technician Training. It's a training, it started just this month with a class of students. It's a program I brought back from Germany that was the German apprenticeship model, and we put it in Michigan mod. Basically, you apply, you get in, you get paid to work for a company. After 3 years, you also come out with a community college degree. You have a guaranteed job if you successfully complete the program and you agree to work for that company for 2 or 3 years. What a great way to keep somebody in our state to say, here's a job.
And finally, Governor, and I'll give you this card to prove that somebody actually wrote these questions. I didn't make this up. 2-parter. What can we do to create more Michigan nerds? Second part, can we expect you to run for president in 2016?
Okay, do we have time still? No, the nerd question I really appreciate. We are working on that, and I'm going to share with something that's already going on. Actually, it's been going on in our state. If anyone's familiar with the Montessori method of education, it's about student-centered learning. It's a great thing going on. It's a different method, but it's really about empowering the student to define their own education, take more charge, use other students to teach one another, and about having the teacher become the coach more rather than the lecturer. We're doing that with the Educational Achievement Authority in Detroit because we had a situation of the most persistently failing schools. They were failing, and we're piloting it there. And it's about student-centered learning, and it's awesome. I visited multiple schools there. Kids are helping one another learn. You learn at your own pace. So what it does, it allows the kids that can go really fast, they can fly. They can go as fast as they can. They can go through multiple levels. For the kids that are good in one subject, they can fly in that subject, and if they're slower in another, they can get more help to help them catch up. And if someone's struggling, there's more personalized attention from that teacher to coach them on being successful. I believe that's a huge part of the future of education, is student-centered learning. And again, it empowers the teacher to become an exciting coach. I think that's wonderful. Now, with respect to the second one, I'm really excited. I'm focused right now because I hope you think I'm really focused on being the best governor of Michigan and keep going on that one. So, I'm going to keep going. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you, though. I hope you're fired up. And that's why I ask about the background of all of you, to say thank you to all of you. For 2014 to happen, we need you. And we need you to go get your friends and neighbors involved. And that's why I was quite serious when I mentioned that video. That video is going to be available, and if you'd be willing to put it out as an attachment or something and send out the link to everybody in your email distribution. For the young people here, that probably means their Twitter and Facebook. But get it out to everyone you know, because it's really about talking about how we are reinventing Michigan. And isn't it about time that we stop making excuses for the past? We talk about our tough times, and we're talking about Michigan coming back and being the greatest state in the nation again. We're going to get her done. So let's be proud and loud and go for it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. 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 Thank you. Thank you.